I'm Matt Chanway, and welcome to this short, free lesson on how to make your electric guitar soloing sound better. Today, specifically, we are going to be looking at the double stop technique. Now, there are a lot of YouTube tutorials available on just the extreme basics of how to play a double stop, so I'll spare you the detailed breakdown and just say for now that a double stop is essentially whenever we play more than one string at a time on our guitar. Double stops are a classic technique used by proficient electric guitarists of virtually every genre, but I'm going to try to avoid churning out cliches here. When we play continuous streams of single notes, in other words, just picking or sounding one string at a time, unless your playing is really inventive, it can become a little bit fatiguing to the listener's ear at times. Double stops really have a twofold or doubled effect. One is when your ear is accustomed to hearing a lot of single notes, just hearing two notes sort of bloom together with that musical effect that you hear with an electric guitar, it just adds a different texture to the lines that you're playing. It's often just sort of a refreshing change to the listener's ear. Second, when we incorporate two notes sounding at the same time within a melody, lead break, or even just a rhythm guitar fill, it opens up some new possibilities for inventive melodies that we can play. Double stops can also be used to great effect to enhance your rhythm guitar playing. Having some licks in the fold that are not quite chords but also aren't just mere single notes really can add some nice tasty effect to your rhythm guitar parts. Now, if you want to start using double stops in your playing, you could just start experimenting with stacking random scale notes on top of one another. However, this can be kind of labor intensive, and I think you'll quickly find that just sort of stacking certain notes within the scale doesn't always sound that great, or at least not how you probably envision, the sort of double stop sound that we're describing. I'm going to give you a few great sounding double stop ideas that you can start using in your playing right away. And you're welcome to take these licks, but I'd also really like you to pay attention to how and when I'm using the double stops. Hopefully you'll agree that they're timed in a way that they really add an extra bit of dimension to the licks I'm playing at sort of just the right time. Pay attention to whether the double stops are happening early on in the lick, or perhaps sort of midway through the lick, or at the end of the lick. And think about how you can make similar choices in your lead playing just to add that little bit of extra nuance to your playing. Remember that double stops are just one lead guitar technique that you have in your arsenal, but all of these little techniques, when you use them adequately and use them effectively, they have a cumulative effect, and using lots of little techniques like this are the difference between sounding like an amateur that's just kind of figuring out the pentatonic scale and a great sounding seasoned electric guitar player. That said, let's dive in and have some fun. The first double stop example I'm going to show you, basically I'm going to be playing this over a chord progression where E major is the main chord here. And the specific double stop I'm going to be starting out with, I'm going to have both the root note as the higher note, and I'm going to be hammering onto the flat 7, which is a really strong sort of pull note. So by having two strings ring out together and by making one of the strings sound this really strong pull note, it's going to have a really powerful melodic effect. Okay, so in our first example, we start with a little bit of an ascending bluesy phrase. And that's kind of doing a little quick hammer on the G string. And then the double stop, using this flat 7 I was talking about, flat 7 and combined with the root note, is my index finger is on the 12th fret of the high E. I start with my middle finger on fret 14 of the B string, and I'm strumming those, and then hammering on to the 15th fret of the B string with my ring finger. And then I'm kind of hopping this way where I'm barring the top two strings and I'm doing the hammer on to the 14th fret of the second string. I'm using my ring finger to do that. And the key is to keep whichever finger is doing the hammer on, it has to almost have an exaggerated arch to it. Because if you don't do that, it'll mute out the string that's the second string of the double stop, the one that's just kind of ringing out, giving us the sort of static note. We have a similar idea now that descends down the G and B strings. You're kind of doing a little bit of hopping. Here I've got my index finger on fret 12 of the B string, my middle finger on fret 13 of the G string, and I'm going to strum, hammer on to 14 on the G. Remember to keep those fingers nice and tall, Then I'm gonna do a little hop. My middle finger's on 12 of the B, my index is on 11 of the G, strumming those, and I'm hammering onto 13 of the G with my ring finger. And then I finish, I kind of descend down that one just by removing the ring finger, and then I finish on the root note, which is that 9th fret E. This next double stop example is quite physically challenging. It's gonna be more of a blues lick. Let's check it out. The next example, we're doing a sort of blues phrase to start off. Just to kind of get some nice single note action there. And then the double stop, this is a little bit of a tricky maneuver. My index finger is on fret 4 of the G, and my ring finger starts on fret 7 of the D. This is a great, by the way, this little lick I'm about to show you, this is great for your dexterity, for your finger independence, and for your position shifts with what you're gonna be doing with your index finger. So this is a great skill builder here. What I'm doing, I have those two notes, I strum them, I hammer on to the 8th fret of the D string with my pinky, and that's actually giving us the blue note, the blues scale note. I do a pull off, and then I'm gonna do one more pull off with my ring finger, but my index finger has to hop to the 5th fret of the D string to receive that pull off. It's strum, hammer with the pinky, pull off with the pinky, shift the index finger, pull off with the ring finger. And we just finish on the root note there. The next example is going to be mostly based around the G major pentatonic scale. Specifically, the double stop note I'm going to be hitting is going to be the perfect 4th, which is not actually found within the G major pentatonic scale. It is found within the G major scale, but adding this note at just the right time is going to add some interesting color to the phrases I play. Let's check it out. The next example in G major pentatonic, it starts with a little pre-bend action, and I'm doing on the 10th fret of the 2nd string. So in other words, I start off by bending the string a little bit without sounding the note at all, and then as soon as I pick the note, the 2nd string, I bring the string down. Really cool sound. A little bit of a hammer on back to my sort of original starting note. Then there's a quick little picking phrase, and that's 8 on the B, 9 on the G. Then what I kind of do, I'm kind of going for a bit of a choppy sound, so this is okay to do. My middle finger is just going to hop to the 9th fret of the D, and it's going to go 9 on D, roll over, just a roll with the finger, 9 on the G, and then roll back. And then the double stop, which is going to add lots more color to it, is this. And how I do that is I got my index on the 7th fret of the G, my middle finger on the 9th fret of the D. These really do get a bit of a stretch going, especially when you're keeping your fingers as tall as they need to be to let the notes ring out. I hammer on to 10 on the D with my ring finger. Then I do this little hop. My index finger is now barring 7 on the 4th and 3rd strings. I'm strumming that, and I'm hammering on to the 9th fret of the D string. So you have, and then finishing on the root note G. And that perfect 4th I was talking about earlier in the breakdown is the 10th fret on the D string. So when you go to this, what you're doing is you're adding in the perfect 4th to the G major pentatonic scale, and it gives a really, really nice melody to it. The next double stop idea is a little bit more of a classic example. These double stop licks I'm about to play are really commonly used by a lot of sort of the heavy hitters of electric guitar, you know, Hendrix and the like. I'm playing in the A blues scale or A minor pentatonic scale. This double stop lick, although I'm using it in the lead context, this would work really, really well as a fill between chords too. Let's dive in. The next example starts with a little walk up the A blues scale, and I'm doing a combination of picking and sliding to achieve that, to play these 4 notes in a single string. So I'm picking 10, picking 12, I use my ring finger, this is on the D string by the way. Then I'm going slide, slide, pick, pick, slide, slide, and I do a little string skip to get that 13th fret of the second string. The double stop portion, there's actually 3 of them happening here. And just as a side note, these double stops, these particular ones happen to work really well with chords as well, really cool sounds. But to get that first one, my index is on the 12th fret of the high E string and my middle finger is on the 13th fret of the B string. I strum, and I use my pinky to hammer on to 15 on the B string. Then I release my pinky and strum again. Now my middle finger can actually stay where it is and my pointer finger pivots down to the 12th fret of the G string, and I have a similar idea here. I'm strumming the G and B strings, hammering on to 14 with the ring finger, releasing the ring finger and strumming again. So far I have. Then there's a little bit of a hop here. My pointer finger is getting the 12th frets of the 4th and 3rd strings, strumming the 4th and 3rd strings, and hammering on to the 14th fret of the D string. I release it, strum again, and I finish on the 10th fret of the D string there. And that single note line is just kind of similar to the opening lick we looked at. My ring finger gets the 12th fret of the A string, then I hop over to the 12th fret of the D, pick and slide, and then after that, it's 10, 12, 10 on the D string. The last double stop lick I'm going to get into is I'm going to skip a string with these double stops. Specifically, I'm going to do a double stop that uses notes on string 4 and string 2. Let's check this one out. So I hit those first 2 notes there. I'm using my index and middle finger on frets 14 and 15 respectively of the top 2 strings. Then I'm going 17, 15 on the B string, and just really take care to make the fingers arch so you can get both strings ringing out fully. That's just strumming with a bar on the top 2 strings, 15th fret. My ring finger hammers on to 17 and I release the ring finger and strum the top 2 strings. And I use my middle finger to get the 16th fret of the 3rd string. I'm using my middle finger on 14 of the D string and my ring finger on 14 of the B string. Our middle finger is just dampening the G string. So the G string does not really ring out, and I'm strumming right through strings 4 through 2 inclusive. Then I move these 2 fingers down 2 frets. So I've gone from 14 to 12. And then we're almost there. This is a lot of movement. We're gonna do a bit of a new shape. My middle finger is going to get fret 11 of the D, my index finger fret 10 of the B, and then this same shape here, 11 and 10, is going to on the D and B strings is going to shift down 2 frets, and I'm going to finish on 9 of the D, 8 of the B. So that little move, and then I get the 9th fret of the 3rd string. And again, just to add a little bit, just to kind of make it a full cap off the phrase, if you will, I just finished with that's just 7, 9 on the G, 8 on the B, 9 on the G, and a little bit of a vibrato, a little pentatonic blues lick to finish things off. All right, so that'll do it for today. I sincerely hope that you enjoyed these examples that I played for you, and I hope that you give them a go and try using them in your own playing. If you do, I think you'll start to see some positive changes in your electric guitar playing, even if you played double stops before. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to the Electric Guitar Academy YouTube channel. We've got new videos added weekly, and you can also consider following us on our social media links as well. Thanks again, and stay tuned. We'll have lots more videos coming your way.